going to the East Coast, 3 and 4 nights, followed by a return home to face a very tough Phoenix Suns team. And I, if you ask the players, it seems like it'd shoot around before the Suns game, talking about the road trip, and then it'd shoot around on Tuesday or after practice. The guys seem like, for the most part, they're pretty positive about the fact that they were able to have this stretch early. I know Barnes and Keegan Murray in particular expressed that, and I think we were kind of saying similar things, but you could see that, especially on the back-to-back in Atlanta, and then in the fact that late in the game in Boston, the Kings just couldn't answer, as this championship contending team was just raining points down on them, unanswered. And you could see, especially in those games, and even in the Memphis game, because the Memphis game, the Kings looked like, they won that game. That's what extended their win streak to 7 before they went ahead and lost 3 straight. They played pretty well in that game, but they kind of let things kind of get away from them a little. It got a little close. And it was, I think they had 20 turnovers in that game, 18, something in that range, which is, I think they had at least 18 in all 3 of the road trip games. And so they got away from doing a lot of things they've been doing well. And there's just issues in the fact that when they were on this winning streak, it may be credited to playing most of their games at home on their win streak, but they're closing out the game in the final few possessions. And you could not say that about any of these games, except, of course, maybe Memphis. But even the Phoenix game, just on Monday night, the late game, they get the stop. Like, they played great defense with about 35 seconds left, wound the shot clock down, forced them into a 3 in the corner. It wasn't like a terrible look for the Suns, but they missed. And who comes down with the offensive rebound but Torrey Craig? And I watched that replay a lot, and you want to be able to do the little things, quote unquote. But man, that was just a long rebound. Kevin Huerter came down to crash the boards with him. Torrey Craig sandwiched in between Sabonis and Huerter. Credit to Craig for coming down with that one. And, Huerter made a good second effort to swipe at the ball. But, give credit where credit's due. You want to get that rebound, of course, but I don't know. It just didn't seem like I guess what I'm saying is, I guess it didn't seem like they really got gassed, I guess, on the road. They were very tired. They were a step behind. They were not making the best decisions, particularly in the back-to-back, and then in the fact that they just couldn't answer. So there was that, and then it just seems like they've kind of just gotten away from being able to close out games, which is particularly true in that Suns game. I don't know. It just seems like they got away from doing everything that they were doing, in a way. Not everything, but a lot of it. And a lot of threes haven't been falling. I think that's important to note, too.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. It was a tough stretch, that 3 games in 4 nights, all on the road, all against good teams. It was nice they beat Memphis. Like you said, it kind of got close towards the end, but man, it felt like that end of the game, Memphis was just Ja Morant just running into people, and just the refs calling a foul anytime he went into contact with someone. It's a little frustrating. Like, yeah, it was close, but like, what are you supposed to do in that situation? Like, Sabonis had his hands up, and he's just like running into him. It's like, he's like, foul. Like, he shot what, like 6 to 9 free throws in that last like minute and a half or whatever. It was, and then that 3-point shot.
I just never really got that. I don't really get why the NBA would reward that. Because first of all, it's like, I always thought this about James Harden when I was younger. I was like, why do they reward this guy? Like, he's just out there flailing a lot of the time. That's how I see it. And I'm just like, that's not exciting. I'm like, I'm not saying I agree with this and this is how it should be, but it's like these guys are trying to maximize money, you know? That's not how it should be, but that's the way it is. And so it's very odd that they just reward free throw shooters. And I think you were saying the same thing about Trae Young to me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, outside the podcast. And it's just like, yeah, I hadn't really noticed it. It's annoying. But
Yeah, yeah. And playing Young and Morant in back-to-back games was a little annoying to watch. They just both seem to play fouls a little more than actually, like you kind of said, the James Harden type of play. It's not a fun way to watch it. It's a lot of like ticky tack fouls too. It's just like you're gonna give that to them. But the Morant, especially to end the game, it's like that dude's
yeah,
just running through traffic and just getting a call because because he's just jumping into people at that point. Um,
yeah,
I didn't like that. And then like you beat them at least, right? Then you go to the Hawks and you lose to the Hawks, and it's like okay, like Fox kind of had a bad game. Um, and it's like the second night of a back to back. He's probably tired or something. And then you play 2 nights later in Boston, the best team in the league, and they kind of hung in there. But that first quarter was so bad, and even though they came back and took the lead later in that game in the third quarter, it was and then the Celtics just blew them away at the end of the third and into the fourth. But um, those were acceptable losses on my part, the Hawks and the Celtics.
yeah.
But that game on Monday against the Suns, you come back home, a couple days rest. It was just, it was frustrating. It was a little tougher to swallow for sure. I was hoping Fox could get back on track, but man, he's not looking too good these last 3 games. I don't know what's going on. Right after he's saying that he can get to any spot he wants, right now he's just now he's getting to those spots, but he's not hitting. So
Yeah.
he needs to hit
It's
those
a,
mid range. Yeah.
before we transition to Fox,
Mm-hmm.
just on that Suns game, you go down kind of the box score and you're like, okay, obviously Monk and Sabonis had great games. Herder found a way to be impactful. Um, Keegan Murray didn't have a great game, but it was at least a little step in the right direction. It felt like they tried to get him involved early, which you saw that when they got Harrison Barnes going earlier this season after a pretty poor start. They were very deliberate about getting him going. And it's been kind of the same thing with Keegan Murray off and on. And maybe that's more the game plan at home where he plays better. Um, but you kind of went down the line, and there were maybe like 2 guys in particular that did not perform very well. And one was Barnes, who, I guess like sometimes you're bound to disappear. So I'm not gonna like jump back because we just said last week that like Barnes is playing well. Like hell, the Kings might be talking about giving him a contract extension. All these things. I'm not gonna really let like the road trip and then like one bad game. Let's see what happens in this Indiana game.